The Wi-Fi brownouts that unfortunately.
Okay.
Hey, look at this way. At least it didn't happen during Doc Severin's stream, and I can bloody well yell at Rogers after.
Oh, Rogers.
But yeah, like if the players know that they will have the opportunity to make those less shenanigan choices within the confine of the one shot, they'll take it.
Yeah. Like and that's just how things really play out a lot of the time, at least from my experience, that if players believe that their actions sort of don't have consequences, or at the very least they're never going to be back in this place, like see just how human beings treat spaces where they think they're not going to be back again. Like, how do people treat spaces they think they're not going to be returning to? They don't treat them very well. And that's okay, because if you want to run like a fucking high octane shenanigans, like, you know, balls to the walls kind of game, then awesome. Like, this is exactly where you want to be. But if you want to run something that's like a serious, nuanced, you know, narrative, then, you know, you're gonna need something a little longer than just the one episode, and that's okay. Like, you get shows like Marvel's fucking What If that's currently going on Disney Plus, and they can tell ridiculous stories because it's a one-off. So they bend the rules and go wildly off script and go insane and just go all the way to 11 with a lot of stuff, and it makes for a great story. But they do this for two reasons. One, they know that we're not returning to that narrative. And two, like, they already know the narrative's established. They know that we've seen all the MCU movies up to this point. So they know that when they change things about it, we know what it's supposed to be like and how it's different.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I love the one-offs that we've done at D20 Live, where it's just like, yeah, we're gonna do fucking this thing, and we're gonna be all these, like, you know, Codex Astartes guys from Warhammer 40k. Let's go. And it's like, dope. We're gonna do insane shit with these characters that we've made, which is gonna make for a really good show. And then we're never coming back to this. And even if, like, you know, it's like, oh, but we are gonna come back to this narrative like in a year or in 2 years, it's like, well, we're still going to treat it the same way. Like, we're still going to push the limits, and like, if our character dies, then who cares? Like, we're just going to go and try it. Because if our character does die, we just make a new one for the next game if we come back to it next year. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Topulsar's asking, have you ever looked into older adventures for inspirations outside TSR's season 1 and i6 modules?
Yep, totally.
Yeah.
D20 Live's entire Ravenloft game is more closely based off of the i6 version of Ravenloft than any other edition. Tonally. But it's very much based on that. Because it was faster, more compact, and I kind of liked the version of Strahd that I got out of that.
Yeah, you went through a number of Strahd variants just to see like
which
what was.
Gotta fucking call the TSA so many variants of Strahd up in here.
Well, because here's the thing.
The TVA.
There's a thing about Strahd which I've seen very few modules actually cover. And it's the idea that two things. One, Strahd is lying to himself about the world around him. Oh, the question was for Doc, not me. Never mind.
Oh, that's fine. So TSR S1, that's like OG Gygax Dungeons and Dragons, right?
S1's literally the Tomb of Horrors.
Tomb of Horrors. Okay, so I don't draw to Pulsar. The only thing that I draw from Tomb of Horrors S1 is how not to run a fucking game. Like, and I'm going to be mean about that. I think that Gary Gygax made a fun system, but he is probably, in my opinion, the worst DM or player that you can imagine. He expects his players to interrupt him while he's doing descriptions. He expects players to metagame and look for information outside of the narrative that the characters really shouldn't be able to know. He expects a lot of things that, in my opinion, are just bad gameplay practice. I don't think that S1 is a very good representation of narrative storytelling on a tabletop game. What is an I6 module?
I6 is Ravenloft.
Ravenloft. Is that like OG Ravenloft or
Yeah,
the
that's
more
the original
recent
Ravenloft module.
I honestly haven't read any of them. Like yeah, like, well, that's the thing, Rob. Like, it literally said in the original Tomb of Horrors document that the players have to interrupt you in order to not be killed by the skull with the gems in its eyes, which is the shittiest thing I think I've ever heard in a module. That the players are, in order to not get permadeath, the players have to interrupt you while describing a scene. And that's not even the only time that it does that. In multiple places, it asks you to like do that. And also, he was like, players should know that, you know, if you see this symbol, it's supposed to mean this. It's like, players should know that, sure. Do characters know this? Like, are the characters rolling for knowledge checks? No, the players are just supposed to know that if they throw a rock and they hit that particular trigger on the wall, that this will happen in the dungeon.
Well,
And it specifically says this in the description on the side that, like, in order to survive, players must have this knowledge that the characters will not possess.
Where?
And it's just like, it's ridiculous.
No, where?
Okay, so
I don't remember the exact place, but I remember reading it.
There's a reason why it's like that. It's because of the fact that at the time, everybody read the module, and only one person ran it. And it's one of those things. It's a cultural difference now between the D&D now and D&D back then. So back then, Gygax was probably the best GM at the time, but now he's probably the worst because gaming has evolved since then.
Yep.
So
and good table decorum
and tabletop decorum, and the fact that the entire culture of tabletop has evolved to be a much more nice and kind and polite person, as opposed to the because the idea behind D&D in the first place was to give people who were very quiet and calm a place where they can be rude, abrasive, and a place where they can go and interrupt the GM in the middle of a description, going like, no, I want to stop, I need this to stop doing this right now, right? So that way it would give them the impetus to do that. So reading the older modules, you have to accommodate for the culture evolving, right? Which the modules back then didn't. They didn't think that it would ever get past, like, you know, their group of like 20 people, right? But you as the GM, you have to accommodate from the module. That's what the point is. That's why at the beginning of the DM guide, it says you can take every single page out of this book and rip it apart. I don't care. Right? It's how you want to play the game now.
Yeah. Plus, too, the Tomb of Horrors was entirely devised as a counterculture statement.
Oh yeah, Tomb of Horrors was made to punish players who thought they couldn't kill.
It's literally the fuck around and find out module, I would argue.
Well, yeah. I just like reading it over after we played it on D20 Live, like all those years ago. After having played that, and then you gave the module to us to read, and I was just like furious reading through it. I was just like, why is he doing this? Like, he expects players to know things. Like, there's no role playing in here whatsoever. He says in the descriptions of this thing that the players have to interrupt him in order to survive an instant kill mechanic. And I'm like, this is such insanely bad DMing. Like, oh my God. And like, I know that that's probably the intention. Gary Gygax also wanted D&D to be human-centric. Gary Gygax also had a lot of very problematic opinions about a lot of stuff. So like, he made a good game. Good for him. I'm so glad that other better people have taken control of it and made it into better things since then. Like, one of the core concepts of D&D was alignment up until 5th edition, where alignment is kind of a suggestion or a guideline rather than a hard rule, and that paladins using abilities like detect good and evil is just detecting whether or not a being is undead or demonic or celestial or fey. It doesn't detect their alignment anymore. And I think that that's great, because there was a lot of people who were getting into tabletop games going, hey, isn't it kind of problematic that you say that all these elves with black skin are just inherently evil because they're black? And there's a huge movement in D&D that was like, no, people with dark skin are evil. And everyone's like, that's racist. And then that blew up into a huge discussion, which ended in, yeah, that is fucking racist. So we're going to take alignment out of all the monsters in the monster manual, and you can play them however the fuck you want. Like, we'll have suggestions for that stuff, but goblins are not default chaotic evil anymore. Like, play whatever you want. Like, that's what this game's for. It's a rule system so that everyone can get together and tell a story, and the rules are there to make sure that people don't go way the fuck off the rails in their part of the story that they're telling. Sorry, I apologize for getting a little off book there to Pulsar, but yeah, like, I truly, in all the games that I've run, I don't look to D&D modules to get inspiration. Like, Darla years ago gave me a bunch of 5th edition module books when 5th edition first launched. She received them from Wizards of the Coast, and as like a promo thing so that she could talk about them on the show that she had back then. And she really didn't have any need for them or use for them, so she gave them to me. And I was like, dope. I still, to this day, I think, 4 years later, have not read them. Like, I take my inspiration from things like I was saying, like Divinity Original Sin 2, like video games. I take my inspirations from other movies and stories that I've seen. I examine narratives that they do. The mechanics of the game is a vehicle to tell a story. So the important part, at least for me, and I know that this is absolutely not what other people have to do. I know there's loads of people that just want to sit down and roll dice and they don't want to role play and they don't care about character shit. And that's totally fine. But for me, the games that I'm running, I like to have them more narratively driven. I like giving players choices and consequences to their actions, good or bad. And I like looking at narrative storytelling styles that you see from video games. And now I've just recently started watching Dimension 20, Brandon Lee Mulligan running Fantasy High, like how he describes characters, how he brings up and role plays different characters, the voices he does, like, you know, drawing inspiration from people like that.
Okay.
And is there anything that you've taken from that in particular?
I really like observing, and this is going to sound very weird. I love observing a person's particular vernacular, like their word choice. I really liked characters like Agent Smith, for example, from The Matrix. I love that every sentence that he uses, he punctuates with a rephrasing of the sentence. So he'll say something and then he'll say it again more concisely with more sort of curt or to the point grammar.
Okay.
And I really enjoy that kind of vernacular. So with watching Dimension 20, specifically like the first season of Fantasy High, because I really don't have a lot of time to watch a lot of that stuff, and they boil down and edit down their episodes a lot more, so it's a lot easier for me to kind of figure out. I like how he does certain things where he goes, you know what, instead of playing out all this insane stuff, we're just going to have everybody do some rolls, and then I'm going to narrate the kind of stuff that happens based on the choices you make. And then move on to the next scene. And it's like, yeah, you don't need to set a map and have people play out every single thing that goes on. Sometimes I'm just going to have you guys do rolls and we're going to just, you know, narrate a scene and then move on to the next thing. It's like when you guys were escaping the collapsing tunnels, I was like, yeah, roll this stuff for me. I'm not going to, you know, make you guys move on a map and have like a tile on the map that's the collapsing tunnel. I'm just going to be like, roll some stuff and then we'll play that out. Like, let's see how that works.
You want to do a faster more cinematic flavored scene, right?
Yeah, and I think that I also really enjoy how Brandon respects the time of the players and the audience.
Yeah.
That he's not going to sit around and fuck about with a lot of like medial shit. That he's just going to ask people what it is that they want to do. And if they're role playing, he lets them role play to a point. He will let a scene go until he realizes that the scene might have reached its like inevitable, like many roleplay scenes will reach like sort of an infinite loop at the very end where people will kind of just talk in circles because they don't know how to end the scene or how to move on to the next thing, in which case then he'll step in and be like, and then we're going to move to here. Like, okay, so then that happens. Like, just to quickly recap, he goes, cool. So you guys shared that moment and now this is happening. And he'll just kind of like pick up the story and move it to the next area.
So
which I think is fucking dope.
it is actually really cool, actually. Mike, we have a question for you in chat.
What's up? I've been waiting to
The
answer
D20
it.
came out this year with Dune RPG. I figured this might be something you might be somewhat interested in. Players create their own houses and are agents of it. What are your thoughts of like a Dune RPG?
I honestly, well, my thoughts on the Dune RPG are the ones I've had for a lot of IP and properties, but it seems like from what I have read, I have not had a chance to actually look at a PDF of the book because, spoiler alert, I'm getting married.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I haven't had the opportunity to really, unfortunately, look into it as much as I've wanted to. I'm actually legitimately interested in the Dune RPG because I want to see how that adapts. The only exposure I've had to Motifus is their Fallout RPG, which is more of a Fallout 4 style game. So I'm curious to see how that permeates, how their 2D20 system design works within the universe of Dune. So far, from what I saw of the core mechanics of their Fallout game, I liked.
I think
it amazes me.
A Fallout style game in a Dune style like setting would be like absolutely cool.
Oh yeah,
That'd be phenomenal.
but you'd have to do like major house building and stuff to really make that work, and also have never ever go to Arrakis unless you want to, and someone else becomes the new Paul Muad'Dib or something else entirely. It amazes me that Wizards of the Coast hasn't brought Planescape for 5th and made changes where they have for more diverse character direction that they want to do. Yeah, it's really puzzling that they haven't gone to Planescape and really updated that to the direction that they wanted to go in. And they've wanted to go in with appealing to their new the new LGBTQ audience, which is something Wizards has never done before in the more recent time. Would you guys ever do a Starfinder campaign? I'd be interested in what that would look like. Working on it. Very much working on it. I mean,
Starfinder I've heard of, never played it before.
Great, but seeing Wizards of the Coast recent scorecard maybe should be left for 6th edition. Well, Wizards of the Coast, what they're doing now is they found a way through something I don't care for at all, to market the living hell out of their products to the point where they don't have to release them as much as before. Through their D&D live events, which I still think is a Ponzi scheme upon itself. Has it really been 15 to 20 years since we got a reference to sigil in a planner's book? Yes. Yep. There is the Starfighter game they did at Anime North a few years back. We did not do it at Anime North. We did it at MagFest, actually. Mad Max Arrakis. If I was going to do a Mad Max style game, though, I'm trying to think what system I'd pick.
There was
there's
a couple of YouTube channels that I check out on occasion, like XP to Level 3 and Dungeon Dudes, who mostly just talk about mechanics. Because, like, as a DM, I can't be on top of literally every class and every ability that's used in the system. There's a lot of rules that are there, but I will watch some of these channels because they usually give an opinion on stuff that I typically agree with, not always. But they have some that are like, oh yeah, here's a Descent into Avernus, which is like this Mad Max style D&D campaign, and they put all these extra mechanics in the book for like driving these demon powered cars that have like guns and stuff attached to them through the plains of hell. And I was like, that sounds fucking rad. Like, and then if I ever need to use those mechanics or adapt those mechanics to a different section of the game that involves vehicles, like, oh yeah, here's a section where the players are escaping from a town in a chariot and they're being chased by another 2 chariots. Like, I can use those mechanics if I want to, or I can just wing it. But like, that's cool stuff that we can always bring back at some point. Soon in one of the games that I'm running, players are going to be getting on a ship that they themselves are making and then sailing off to sea. And I'm like, what kind of things are they going to run into? Are there monsters? Are there pirates? Are there like all this other stuff? I've got loads of stuff I can take in terms of inspiration from Sea of Thieves, and also Saltmarsh has a bunch of rules in that, book that talks about boats and stuff. So I'm definitely going to be buying a copy of that and reading through it just really for the mechanics to see how they do boat travel and boat combat.
You should check out 7th Sea, dude.
Is that like a tabletop game?
Yeah, tabletop game, pirate focused, really good.
Cool.
Either edition will do you real good if you want to try a different system.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, I don't say that I don't like other systems. I and I know that a lot of people think that I'm like a D&D Puritan. I'm not. I just don't like learning new systems all the time. So when people are like, yo,
I
you
do.
got to check out this other system, like, I truly, if I wasn't like running my own company and streaming 5 days a week and running 2 other D&D campaigns, I would absolutely be interested in picking up a rule set and reading it. But if like I just don't have the time to like learn a whole new set of mechanics and sit down and figure that out, which I'm noticing a lot of people that are making tabletop games are really respecting a lot of these days, where all the new tabletop games that I'm seeing coming out are much less rules heavy than a lot of the games now.
It's a real shame though. It's
I
honestly,
mean,
I think it's a terrible
yeah,
thing. Fuck it. I think it's a fucking terrible thing. I think it's horrible. I think it's
yeah.
terrible for the community, and it's bad. I legitimately do, because I do.
That games have less rules these days.
That games live in that fear, that stereotype exists because of the
Okay.
myopia of 5e. I legitimately do, because we're
All
getting
right.
some great experimentation through rules elegance,
Mhm.
which I'm grateful for, right?
Yeah.
Because
good to
there's a
trim
real
things
question
down.
being asked now. The flip side to it is we are now asking, does the additional rules add enough mechanical payout to justify their inclusion? Which I feel is a good
complexity.
thing
Yes.
on many levels. But the mentality of, I don't want to learn another system other than 5e, so the next thing has to be easy, is incredibly limiting. And I feel I feel it's a straight up stain on the community. It's
Rough.
it's a shit mentality.
You heard it here first, folks. I'm a stain on the community of tabletop play.
No, you're not. I am not saying that. I am not saying that. It's just that
Okay.
that mindset's a problem, though. Because what happens when someone wants to create something legitimately deeper and bigger and more complex?
They absolutely can do that, but I feel that rule systems that are much more trimmed down respect players' time more. That you, as a game creator, can make a game as complex as you want, but this problem comes up with not just tabletop games, but video games and any other kind of, like, even sports. If I wanted to invent a new sport and it had like 50 different facets and, you know, a whole bunch of different, you know, like poles and balls and nets and hoops and things like that, and like a whole bunch of stuff, people really wouldn't be as excited to play that as they would games like soccer, which is kick a ball into a net on the other side of the field. And there's
Yeah,
like
but, like,
a
here's the
few
problem with
nuanced
that
rules that
logic.
can mix to that, but that's it. Like, the most popular sports and games that we see these days are the ones with the most simplistic rule systems, because it's not just easier for people to pick up and play, it's easier for people to watch. It
I
respects
disagree, considering the
people's
fact that
time.
D&D is so friggin' popular, and it has one of the more complex rule systems.
Oh yeah. I'm not
Right.
saying that complexity is a bad thing. I'm saying that if you're introducing a new thing to the already existing environment and you're like, I want to make a system that's as or more complex than D&D, the response you're going to get is going to be mixed. You're going to get players like Mike who are like, I'm absolutely in to chew down another 1,000-page book that like has all these rules. Like, I want to get into it. I want to get deep in the paint. And then you have people like myself who have dyslexia who are like, I don't want to read 1,000 pages of mechanics again. I've already spent all this time learning this current thing, and I feel like the new games that have a lot of needless mechanics that could honestly, like, it's very much like, you know, this meeting could have been an email kind of situation, that like all of these mechanics really just could have been narrated. Like, you didn't need to make up a rule system for the flowers in this forest that are literally unimportant. Like, I just don't
Yeah, but,
feel
like,
like that's respecting people's time, right?
but you're applying a very broad label to an entire method of play. Like, while it may not be the most financially viable course, there is a reality of the fact that there has to be an encouragement of diversity of gameplay style within the market. Now, Doc,
Absolutely.
you mentioned you have dyslexia, so in no way will I dismiss your need
No, of course.
to
And like,
to
even if I
to
didn't,
require
Yeah.
to your next systems to have simpler or at least lighter mechanics. That's a completely valid need. But the market isn't just your experience or mine.
Oh, of course. No, exactly. Like
Like,
my
there are-
opinion and my experience on this is absolutely just something that's for me. I don't expect anybody to share what I'm feeling, but I also understand that like as game creators and stuff like that, you have to sort of read the market and be like, okay, well, what do people want? Do people want very big complex game systems, or do they want something that's like more trimmed down, more narratively driven, more, you know, like fucking there's certain tabletop games I've had suggested to me that are like a pamphlet. Like and that's just the rules. You sit down, you roll dice, and then there you go. Now, the complexity of the stories that you can tell, I feel is limited when you have less mechanics, because if your rule system is literally just a pamphlet, it's hard for you to kind of understand the boundaries of what you're able to do and not do. Um, but like your opinion of wanting more complicated systems is absolutely valid, and I, to a point, agree with you that like D&D being so popular and being so complex creates kind of difficulty for other big complex game systems to fit in the room. They take up too much space. But I also have a preference to simpler systems because I've spent so much time learning one complex system. I don't want to learn a new one.
So
But that's me.
the thing you're arguing against is not the design of the games. It's actually it's the user experience of design. That's what you're arguing against. Because what you're arguing for is you're making it so you're making it seem like it's the developer's fault for being like, oh, you made it too complex of a game. No, what you are arguing about is you are arguing that they didn't make a cheat sheet essentially for you,
or their layout in the book itself was inherently flawed.
Which that is a complete and legitimate excuse.
Yeah.
Right? So not excuse.
Reason.
A reason, right?
Yeah.
Right? And that's totally okay. That's something that unfortunately I don't think most developers or people who make books in general have a real appreciation for. And the only reason why I'm bringing it up is because I've been currently learning UX design in general. And I've been trying to apply it to a lot more of like things that I've been doing in my day-to-day lives. Much to Mike's chagrin, because he has no idea what I'm going on, and he thinks that I'm thinking he's stupid, and I'm like, no, I'm trying to, streamline it so that way we never have this problem again.
Well, exactly. Like when you're designing a game on any platform, either tabletop or live sports or even video games or even mobile games, your design needs to take player experience into account on every level. That is the designer's like responsibility while they're creating their system. Like if you make a game and you put it on the table and the player goes, I don't understand what's going on. Like I'm confused, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do next in this video game. Like that's bad conveyance. That's not the player's fault. At least in my opinion. Like that is a failure of design on the back end. Like if I make a video game that doesn't explain how to play it at all and people get confused because there's lots of mechanics and rules that are not explained in a way that's very easy for people to pick up, then I failed as a game designer. Subsequently, games that over-explain mechanical systems or handhold too much also get bothered by like players when they're just like, you need to stop holding my hand. Stop having things jump up on the screen to tell me that I can jump over this pit. I've already jumped over 17 pits. You don't need to tell me to do that again. Like that's also a design failure.
So
WWW is pretty rules light, makes for a more
Worldwide Wrestling.
A simplistic game. It works for what it's trying to create. Well, exactly. Like, what's your objective as a game designer? Like, what are you trying to make? If you want to make like a big fucking, like beefy, strong fucking mechanical system that lots of people can get into and really fucking sink their teeth into, like D&D, go for it. If you if that's the objective of what you're trying to lay out, then go nuts. D&D is on its 5th iteration, and even then it's still struggling to be like, what do we explain to players first, races or classes? Do we explain feats now or do we save that for later? Like there's a lot of rules in there, and it can really be hard for a person who's never played a tabletop game to pick up one of those books and kind of figure out what's going on or how to play. But other systems like World Wrestling Federation, like I think that's really cool that they also have their own way of telling stories, and that like a player should be able to pick up a system, in my opinion, that's both either really super complex or really simplistic, and be able to enjoy either of them. Like they shouldn't be confused on either front.
So,
Simplistic games can absolutely get really confusing if they don't accurately describe like what the limits of your interaction with the world around you are. Uh,
It's very true.
yeah. Topulsar says this is a reason why I have in my systems D20 in 4 flavors. Cyberpunk in 3 versions, and numerous other systems, and sometimes lighter systems are not the latest and greatest. Fantasy Trip is from the late 70s and is quite versatile on how simple the base mechanics are in modern times.
yeah, there's one system I'm looking at now called Runequest, and I've had an absolute joy trying to figure it out, but it's also given me anxiety as I read it, because it's it's among the first. I don't know if it's the first. I think Empire of the Petal Throne beats it out. The first non-European sourced tabletop game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's done in the same engine as Call of Cthulhu, because it's made by the same people, Chaosium. And I'm finding it fascinating going down that road of seeing how this entirely different design psychology is brought upon a system.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I actually, you know what, Calendros makes an interesting point in the chat. Having played video games with people who mash A to skip all the cutscenes and then complain that they don't know what's going on, I somewhat disagree that the player is blameless for not understanding what's going on. And to that point, I actually agree with you. I feel like if, as a game designer, like I'm putting in a cutscene that has valuable information that the player will need, like in italics, underline, bold, need, in order to get through this next area, don't make that cutscene skippable. Straight up. Like, or at the very least make it so they have to hold a button in order to do that. And then like if the person willfully ignores a lot of information that's being placed out there by the designer, then like you're always going to get people who, when the screen is flashing, press A to jump, like fucking Aaron on Game Grumps, who'd be like, what do I do? How do I jump? This is stupid. Like there's always going to be those people. But like even as a DM, if I'm running a dungeon and I put a bunch of puzzles in a room and the players go into that room and don't get anywhere near to solving those puzzles and end up having to leave the dungeon because they couldn't resolve that puzzle, and they have to go back to the town and be like, yeah, we couldn't do it. Like as a DM, in my opinion, and again, this is my opinion and nobody needs to share this, as a DM, I feel like I failed because I set up a thing for them to do and they didn't succeed in doing that thing. I should be creating puzzles and challenges that are engaging and difficult, but possible. Like I want to challenge my players. I don't want to make them absolutely get fucked on like day one. I'm not going to throw players up against an elder dragon when they're level 1. Like that's not good design as me as a DM. Like that's, we gotta run that.
So Jordan,
Yo.
you haven't been saying much, man.
Well, I don't really have much to say about game design necessarily. I've been just kind of taking stuff in and kind of, like trying to absorb through keeping my mouth shut, which is something I've had to learn how to do. So
fair enough. Then how about let's switch the topic just slightly, not to dissuade Doc's energy or anything like that.
No, I apologize if I'm talking too much or taking up too much space.
No,
so
it's fine.
Let's bring it back to Everend, Jordan.
Yo.
Everend, what was the biggest surprise for you?
The biggest surprise.
Yeah.
It would definitely have to be. I don't know. Like I thought, like how. Not plot-wise necessarily, because the whole thing is brand new, and I'm really enjoying kind of discovering all the new characters. But like, Fro and Nubs is a huge favorite of mine.
I'm glad.
I love that little weirdo so much. And then the party goblins were a great touch too.
Oh, thank you.
basically just the characters where I'm like mystified as like, where did you come from and how did you get here and why are you a thing?
Yeah.
Like what? The biggest surprise plot wise, I would say, would be where we are now. I didn't expect everything to fall apart in the way it did. I kind of expected Doc to be a bit more protective, I suppose, of his narrative and his world, and not kind of throw everything into a fire just to see what we'll do with it. So that was really surprising.
Oh,
Okay.
we missed a couple of comments that were trying to add to the conversation we were having before. That's why some gyms have pre-generated characters and they start some campaigns.
Yep.
That's how I got started. Also viable. And
Absolutely.
to your problem with the dungeon thing, then you have to make an intelligence roll and give them hints if they succeed, which is a good tactic.
I actually do that. SMW for USA, I 100% agree. Sometimes if like and that's like one of the few little ways that like DMs can kind of save a situation. It's like the equivalent of when you put your players up against a monster and the players are just not rolling well and the monster is just demolishing the team, like, and it looks like it's going to be a party wipe and you do not want to wipe your party, then maybe start flubbing some rolls or turn to one of your players and be like, roll me a history check just at random. And they go, okay. And they roll a history check. And I'm like, you know what? You just now remember that these particular creatures are weak to this or like have this weak point. And they go, oh, cool. I call that out as a free action on my turn. And then everybody starts trying to exploit that weakness. And then they turn the fight around. But it's like sometimes, that's SMV for USA. That's okay. Yeah. Sometimes you just like, you might need to like give players necessarily, they don't hold their hands, but like nudge them in a direction. Like sometimes you just nudge them towards what it is that you want them to do. And that's just one of the ways you can save stuff. I'm glad you like Bromo Nubs though.
Oh, why wouldn't I? It's like he's a really fun character, and I legitimately enjoy really fun characters.
Thank
so
you.
there's no reason why I wouldn't absolutely love this weird little.
If I can,
I think halflings are very much underrepresented in a lot of D&D campaign.
I absolutely agree.
material.
If you want, I can tell you more about Bromo Nubs.
A little character backstory would be wonderful.
Yeah, so a long time ago, I was playing a D&D 4th edition game with some friends. It was my first game with these people. Like, the only D&D I played before that was 3.5 with my brother. 4th edition came out. I wanted to pick it up. Very, very trimmed down rule system. Very good example of how trimming down a rule system is not always a good thing. And one of the characters he made was just a throwaway character, some halfling mobster with a bunch of other halfling goons named Bromo Nubs, who would show up and like a fucking Team Rocket kind of villain. He would monologue a little bit, and then he would call all of his goons to come in and attack you, and then we'd ultimately, beat the goons back, and then before we could get Bromo Nubs, he'd just escape. And I was like, and our entire campaign basically turned into us chasing down Bromo Nubs. Like the cool intrigue between kingdoms, all of that was thrown to the side to just go chase after this asshole because we just needed to kill this guy. He was so frustrating. And then the game actually stopped being run because some people had to exit out. Like the game, we finally caught up with him at his base. So I picked up the character and started running him very similarly in the 5th edition games that I was running over on Evil Incorporated. Later on, when Mike asked me to do this, I pitched this game to him and was like, yeah, go for it. I'm just like throwing up characters that I'm like, yeah, I can make characters like this and NPCs like that and blah, blah, blah. And I love making NPCs out of characters that I've used in previous campaigns or that other people have played in other things. Mm-hmm. As long as they're not like, big name copywritten stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, a druid that I've played in a game previously. Cool. Bodak the Animal. I'll bring that guy in as a character. Bromo Nubs. You know what? Instead of him being a gangster mobster guy, let's have him be your contact at the Adventuring Academy this time around. Yeah. Like, cool. So he's going to be like a pencil pushing, paper stack guy. Let's see how he plays in that kind of space.
And he's really wonderful. Like I find him, like everyone's like, don't trust him. He's awful. And I'm like, I find him delightful. I don't know what you're talking about.
I love the chat's like revulsion at him because he's such an asshole in the other games that we're running. So they're like, no, he's bad. I'm like, in this universe, he's a cool guy. Like he's just a really chill dude, just doing his job. You know, he's a very 9 to 5 kind of halfling. Like it's whatever.
Congratulations, Rob Hagen, on finishing your first Gunpla.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's
Well
huge.
done.
Congrats.
We got a sound for that.
Yay!
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's like when I ran my first game for D20 Live, I found it to be really fun. I'm looking forward to doing more. We need to come back to my existing world to finish it up because sadly we ran out of time halfway through and only got about halfway through the campaign itself, and we missed the finale.
Did you figure out what system you wanted to use, Jordan?
No, actually, I'm thinking I'm just gonna go back to the same one. To be honest with you, it was working, and I don't see why it wouldn't be viable.
Well, because you told me you wanted to try a different system. That's why I supplied you with a bunch of systems to use.
Yeah, I looked at them and I was like, I don't know. Learning a whole new system just for like the second half of a game seems difficult. So that, and I really think that there's like a place to go with the one that I did select.
Okay.
Beforehand, so I really want to.
Cool, go for it then.
Yeah, man.
Clip out more armor.
Current Prime, that WoW sound is used in a lot of anime. Like a lot of different shows use that. It's open source. Last I heard that like people can just fuck around. It's fine.
Yeah, the game was the 80s Miami Hotline style game that I managed to make.
Nice.
I went through a really big phase where I was super obsessed with not the 80s necessarily, but like a very fictionalized version of it. And how ridiculous it can get, and how just like how the 80s like could have been if there was more lasers and DeLoreans everywhere and people wore neon and
wave.
Very synthwave, very
like vaporwave kind of
very vaporwave style sort of thinking, and kind of like an 80s that the 80s wished it could have been sort of thing, I suppose.
So Kung Fury, basically.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it too.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and so I went for a very Kung Fury style thing where everyone's like, I want to jump from car to car. I'm like, do it, baby. Like, you would have to roll super low to fuck that up.
Yeah. Fucking, it's COVID, baby.
Like, do what you want.
Do what you want. Wear trash bags for clothes. It's fine. Go for it.
So, Sam, well, I'm going to answer this question first, and then I'm going to ask you what you enjoyed. Whatever. Mike, what do you think of the campaigns that involve superpowered, supernatural teens running from a group that wants to recruit them? Many way I have books on that concept. I would honestly be very surprised if you didn't suddenly see an eruption of tabletop games built around that concept within the next year or two, because I think there's a great market for that.
Yeah.
That has not been tapped into. Wizards is trying to tap into it with, I think, one of their recent books, which is about having fantasy prom.
Okay.
And I think they're really trying to tap into that market. I don't know if they'll succeed at it, though. Because of the structure and inherent nature of 5e, something way more freeform would suit that a lot better, I would argue. Something where it's like, I want to have this skill and this power and this skill and this power kind of system.
Yeah.
My take on that kind of a thing, to really make that solid and working. You just point by Bill what you need. So Sam, if you're up for answering a question, cutie, do you have a favorite moment from Everend, or a moment that surprised you?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
Because hang on. Well, can I explain?
Sure.
Yeah, of course.
So basically what happened is Quinn is a very special character to me. Because this is not the first time I've done Quinn. This isn't even the second time I've done Quinn. This is like the 5th time I've roleplayed with Quinn. Quinn originally was a throwaway character that I fell in love with because at the time I was going through really shitty stuff with shitty people. And Quinn helped me Quinn helped me get through a lot of the stuff. And when anything bad happened to Quinn, not plot wise, but in the sense of people calling her a shit character, I would get very defensive because I was like, no, she's not a shit character. You're just a shitty GM. Right? So, that changed once I started like actually being in D20 Live, and I told Mike about this, and so ever since then, trying to adapt Quinn to a bigger purpose, let's say, has always been kind of the thing that has happened. And unfortunately, because of how I have written Quinn's backstory, because it is very much the same backstory as I wrote from the beginning of her thing, she always ends up in a revolution of some kind. So when she ended up in a revolution again, I didn't bat an eye, and I'm like, yep, that's where it's going. It's always gonna come here again, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that she ended up back in this saddle of revolutionary queen person. It's just one of those things of, yes, this is Quinn's role in life. It's to become a revolutionist at some point.
Would you have rather it gone in a different direction?
It would have been interesting to see how it would have gone in a different direction, but I have no problems having Quinn go this way, especially since the fact that I actually really do enjoy Quinn going down this route, and I would actually like to see it come to an end at some point, because in one of our homebrew games, she's still one of the leaders of a revolution again, but we haven't gone back to this story in about 3 years.
Oh yeah.
And I very much am happy that eventually that there will be a resolution for Quinn the Vivacious in her revolution.
A resolution to the revolution.
Exactly.
Yeah, I should just go back to that game and finish it, shouldn't I?
I am excited to see how this is going to end.
I'm glad. I did kind of put you guys in between a revolution that was going on. I do apologize if like the direction that the character's going in was something that it's sort of like that she's fallen into a lot.
Oh, no.
I very clearly when you pitched her to me, it's like, yeah, half elven, like ex-noble girl who now travels the land and is like a bard and stuff like that. I was like, you know where this would really fit in, and I just immediately like picked up the first card that was in my head, and apparently a lot of other people picked up that card.
I have zero.
There's going to be some kind of revolution that's going on here, and that makes a lot of sense to maybe have this character in that space.
Like, okay, like Doc, I have zero problem with her being in this revolution again, because the thing is that it always led to Quinn being in a revolution, right? And I was so close to having a resolution for Quinn, that it's just unfortunate that every single time I get to this point, there's always been something that's kind of stopped her from finishing this route, and I don't know if that's just the universe saying, hang on a second, you need time, or if that's just you know, unfortunate circumstance of people and unfortunately other people, right? Yeah. But like I am happy that that there will be a resolution for Quinn's story arc this way, because it's about 12 years in the making.
and that's totally fine. Like my brother, God rest him, back in the day, had this one barbarian that he used to love playing called Ramus. and every game that they would play, if it was D&D or if it was something else or Star Wars or whatever, he'd just play that character in that universe. He enjoyed sort of adapting one character to multiple settings, or even just one character in multiple campaigns, which is totally fine, because like if you enjoy this character and you want to tell this character's story, even if you've already told it, if you want to tell it again, that's totally great. Like I think that that's like insanely valid, and that people should be allowed to absolutely go down whatever road makes them happy. Like, good lord, you only get the one life. Why would you not do things you enjoy? Like
Yeah.
like, and I'm glad that you're going to get that resolution, and I hope that whatever resolution I'm able to sort of bring to the table here is something that you guys will enjoy when we do our final game for this, or the final game for this chapter at the very least.
Yeah,
I'm very excited.
I am too. So,
hell yeah.
It only took me an hour and a half to ask everyone one question. So does anyone have a second question to ask the Evren group as a whole?
Did you answer the question?
I asked one question, was what was the most surprising or enjoyable experience for Evren?
You didn't answer that question.
Yeah, you didn't answer.
I didn't?
No.
I thought I did.
No, you said that this was that you needed to change Matthias, but that hasn't been a surprise.
Yeah. Okay. If people want to hear that.
Yeah.
Honestly, the most enjoyment I had, there's 2 points for me. One is Matthias's interactions with Quinn, because Quinn is clearly attracted to him and he has no fucking idea what to do about that.
Such is our life, you know.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, darling. Is the D20 live game and the Evil Incorporated game in the same universe? I think for now, no, Doc. You decided you wanted to keep it that way.
Yes. I originally came to the table saying that it would make my life a lot easier. Or not even easier, it's like, I've already made all these resources over here, and we could just run a game in that universe. And Mike was like, could we not run it in that universe? Like, are like, Mike was fully willing to accept me being like, yeah, let's run it in the other game that I have running, which is Chronicles of Autometh. And he was like, but could we like make a new one and run like our own thing? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I put this together, and as an experiment, I've actually been running everything royalty free. So like all the sounds that we're using, all the music that we're using, all the visuals and images and stuff are either created by members of our community and paid for and sourced for this stuff, or are just royalty free images and filters and music, which has been a lot of fun.
Seriously, my earlier question about campaigns, do you like stories with those kind of plots? Or are they redundant? What kind of plots were you saying?
About, earlier question about campaigns.
Well, shit, here we go again. Kelly Armstrong, there's 2 trilogies on the idea. I'm not sure which one. Oh, what do you think of campaigns? Yeah, I answered that question. I answered the question about campaigns with young adults. I said that was probably going to be a new wave of tabletop.
But do you like those kinds of stuff?
Oh, do I like them?
Their question.
I don't like how they're written.
That's fair.
That's just because you don't like how YA novels are.
I don't because there's a lacking of nuance, but it's meant to run for YA audiences. So they're meant if you're young, you're a good guy unless you're a traitor young person, or if you're old, you're a useless adult, or you're a soft adult that just stays out of the kid's way, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not at that age anymore, so my part that only has to do with, that has nothing to do with the validity of that genre or narrative style, and everything to do with the fact that I'm just getting older.
Your tastes have changed.
And the onuses of reality have colored my perception about things. It has nothing to do with the validity of the YA trappings and narrative styles thereof. I'm just older. So
I'm in the exact same boat.
I don't need a kid whose age is 17 to 25 to tell me he's got the world figured out. It ain't gonna go great. It's just where I'm at with that, but I fully respect and acknowledge that perspective, right? And it's something I would rather the younger generation be told that, yeah, they failed. It's time for you to move forward and make the world your own, and don't be afraid to do that. It's something that the youth needs to hear in a narrative language entirely.
I ran into that when I was playing Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
When I first played that game, I was an angsty teenager, so the angsty loner, like broody main character in Cloud, I was like, "Oh fuck yeah, I love this," and just like ate that shit up. By the time I finished that game, I was like getting out of my teens because that game goes on for goddamn ever, and lasted an entire chapter of my life for me to get through. But then, like years later, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's out on the PS3. You can download it and play it." And I was like, "Dope! Graphics are going to be super dated. Don't care." I remember having a really good time with it, and I got partway through the storyline in Midgard, and I was like, "Oh, Cloud is insufferable." Like I can't stand how like broody and just like this main character. And yeah, Avalanche was a ruthless terrorist organization. like, like, and I was just like looking back on it now, like as an adult trying to play that game, I was like, I don't identify with this character at all, and it actually made it difficult for me to play because I found the main character to be so unlikable as a person who's outgrown that part of my life.
But
So
Final
like,
Fantasy
yeah,
V, it's timeless. I say that
God, I
because
don't
it
think I've
pisses
ever
Jordan
played
off every
five.
time I say it. You there, Jodo?
Jordan.
He's probably in the washroom or something.
He might be.
Oh, I'm here. Sorry. What's up?
I said, because I was trying to bait you out with, but Final Fantasy V, that narrative is timeless. It pisses him off every time I say it.
6.
It's
6.
He loves 6 so much.
6 was good. I never played 6. I watched my brother play it, and it was a really good time. No, Cloud is not the worst of the Final Fantasy protag I think that Squall from Final Fantasy VIII is a big contender for being angsty main characters in Final Fantasy games.
Squall, what a turd.
Oh, I know. And that was a thing. Like when I got out of Final Fantasy VII, I think I was halfway through Final Fantasy VIII when I was just like, I hate every character that we have. Like every character that's on our team is a person I find entirely unlikable and very frustrating.
Yeah.
None of them have admirable qualities of almost any kind. I was like, why am I following this story? This sucks. And I just kind of quit halfway through. And then like years later tried to go pick up Final Fantasy VII and like, so it was just so bad. Like,
well, the idea that
Rob
the adults
Hagen.
say you're going to work for us and you're not going to object, that resonates with me at 40. No, of course, right? That's perfectly valid, right? And it's why but like there's a certain type of YA novel where it's boiled down to very much cash in on the emotion, like that I dislike. Like there's some very well written ones that are probably ignored far too much. Do not get me wrong.
I'm sorry, Rob. I also hate Squall. I can't stand him.
That's the point. It's called character development. Yeah, exactly. That's gotta happen. If it doesn't happen, and I've seen it not happen.
He's so bad.
You okay, Sam?
I don't like Squall.
To be fair, I'm just being a shit because his screen name is Squall.
I in my head, Squall is just the angriest guy in the universe. He's not the edgiest. And he's trying so hard not to tell everyone, fuck you!
he's so mopey.
Yeah, he acts mopey because he's like, oh god, let me fight. It's my headcanon. In no way is it based on reality. But it's
Well,
like
exactly.
if I'm gonna play Final Fantasy VIII, it's how I'm gonna look at Squall. It's just like, I'm waiting for the rip and tear to start. Squall, you gotta get along with Cypher. Fuck that guy. He sucks.
Fuck Cypher.
And that's another thing. Like, as the main character of the stories in both Final Fantasy VII and VIII, at least observably, the main characters grow the least. Like, the end of Final Fantasy VII, Cloud kind of stops being a baby. Like,
Yeah.
sort of stops complaining about things, like, near the end. But really still does the hair flip and the whatever whenever like things are happening. That's like, oh my god, a giant titan just came out of the ground and destroyed an entire city. Flips hair, whatever. And it's like, shut up, like, god. I fucking hate you. Like, it's so infuriating. Yeah, Final Fantasy 16, Terra, huge amount of growth. Like, I feel like the
Not
characters in
16.
Final Fantasy 1 who you create and name have more growth than characters like Squall or Cloud. Like, yeah, in Final Fantasy Advent Children, Cloud actually has character growth. Yeah, fucking flips here. That's not impressive at all. To answer though a question that Carito Prime was asking. So as a 28-year-old, I should not play Final Fantasy 7 is what you're saying. You can absolutely still go back and play it if you're not frustrated endlessly by like not dismissive but like ambivalent broody characters.
Apparently, the redo of Final Fantasy VII was actually really good because they go into a lot of side quests and backstory about things.
Yeah, they kind of explain a little bit more, give context to some people's behavior a bit better. I haven't played the new remake. I hear it's good.
I hear it's really good.
Someone was asking if there's a good emulator or a good platform to play all of the other Final Fantasy games on, like 1 through 6. They've re-released them on Steam if you want to check them out there.
Steam. Yeah,
Steam is fine.
Yeah, Steam. Sorry, I thought you were going to actually list an emulator.
Yeah, which is illegal, and we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
We can't condone that.
On D20 Live, because, as we have said many times, this isn't to you, Doc, this is to the person who asked the question.
Of course.
If we condone piracy of video games, we're a tabletop channel, it means we've also, by proxy, condone the piracy of tabletop games, which is a far more devastating thing to do in tabletop gaming.
Big old no-no.
Than it is to video gaming. Because logically, pirating a 20-year-old PC game isn't going to do shit. Really. But... Shut up, Rob Hagan.
D20 Live is above board. The Optimal Duo, on the other hand.
Shut up, Rob Hagan.
Shut the fuck up. I agree that emulators aren't a thing, but yeah, if you go to Steam, they have all those games re-released there. You can play them. Good times.
All right, Doc, I'm sorry for cutting you off. I just had to...
No.
I always try to get ahead of that one.
Okay. I'm glad that you did. That is absolutely something you need to get ahead of. Like, we can't condone theft on our live streams like that.
Yeah. On Optimal Duo, I am doing an emulated version of Metroid Zero Mission, but that's because I own the game
and can't stream it.
And I cannot physically stream it from a Game Boy Advance game, and that's really the reason.
Well, and that's the thing. Twitch has said that they allow for emulation if you own the game. Because in a lot of cases, like if I have something on a 3DS or I have like a Game Boy Advance game, I can't stream that in a way that's going to be fun for the recipients. So they're like, if you own a copy, then you can use an emulator. It's fine. It's just allowing you to play the game on a different platform. You've already paid for it.
What about freeware? Asks Sean Lothar. If you're talking about freeware games, those are freeware games, and that's the end of that. So what's your opinion on Games Workshop's war against 3D printing? I don't know enough about this topic to actually weigh in on it. I just know that it's happening.
Wow.
Because they're war against 3D printing. I think that they have
Games Workshop,
every right to be upset. People are 3D printing their product. I don't think they're going to be able to stop it, but I think they have every right to be upset about it.
I think, and this is gonna maybe come across as a little controversial. I believe personally that companies like Games Workshop have made their business in attempting to be the monopoly in an area. That they don't want to make a good product, they want to make the only product. And that's how they've managed to run their business up to this point.
You mean like Wizards with Dungeons and Dragons, basically? Yeah.
Well, Wizards, I mean, I don't know if they're doing that for sure, but
they are. They openly are.
Like they're trying to find other games like Pathfinder and shut them down?
Not shut them down, but they've pulled out of Origins and major gaming conventions. And that's what the D&D Live is.
Oh, okay.
It's basically they're saying their product, Gen Con, Origins, and any other major convention no longer matters to them. They pay for the celebrities to come to the D&D live events, and by drawing
Okay.
attention to those events, they're cutting themselves away from the tabletop market.
Okay. I mean, striking out on their own, I wouldn't say is necessarily a bad thing, but Games Workshop has in the past had a lot of really big, crazy legal battles with other companies that have tried to start mini games, basically attacking them for being like, no, if you make a mini game that's fantasy based or future based, we can still attempt to sue you for identity theft, because for a very long time, they were the only name in the game. And they made it that way for like a while, very much like how early Microsoft would just buy out and then crush smaller companies that might threaten them.
Yeah.
So, and then you couldn't buy Warhammer miniatures at anywhere except for licensed Games Workshop locations, which meant that they could charge whatever the fuck they wanted for them. So you'd be paying $50 to $100 for a box of plastic minis that like that cost them maybe a few cents to make. And ultimately, then you're looking at what is the natural evolution of that behavior, which is people try to find a way to get your product without paying your extortive prices. If you extort a market for your product, people will attempt piracy. If you make a product that is reasonably priced, people, you know, they're still going to get pirates, but like it will be considerably less. If it's easier for people to just buy your product than it is for them to buy their own 3D printer and make their own minis with the 3D printer, then that's the thing. Like, how much does a 3D printer cost? And then getting all these files and doing all of this other business. Like, it is cheaper to buy an expensive 3D printer and make your own fucking minis than it is to just buy Warhammer minis. Like, so
there's an argument. I don't have a strong opinion on this, but I'm going to cite some of the arguments I've heard, where there's people who will say, "Look, Games Workshop, I bought this product, this product, this product. I need 2 more miniatures, and I have a 3D printer. I'm going to print the 2 more miniatures that I need because they're generic parts, and I don't want to go to you to get one-off stuff."
Exactly.
Right. But at the same time, there's people who are just straight up going, "No, fuck you. Fuck around, find out. I'll pirate your whole miniature armies and STL files, and I will buy every miniature you have. I'll scan it and make the STL files viable so anyone can do it."
Yep.
But this was a thing they were going to see happen the second 3D printing was happening.
Yeah. Like, I don't condone theft.
Yeah.
But I do recognize that what is happening is a natural outcome of their behavior. They didn't make their product accessible, so people steal it.
Games Workshop
straight up
was working on a deal for their products at Toys R Us. It fell through because Games Workshop never allows their products to go on sale. Yeah. Doesn't Games Workshop also pull the rug out of the fan base every few years? Yes, they recently screwed over the entire fan animation community.
Going after everybody who was making fanimations for all of their stuff. They served cease and desists to like everyone they could find.
Isn't Warhammer born from plagiarism? Oh yeah, but like
that is actually why the Warhammer Fantasy that's being remade is being a bunch of stuff is being renamed. So like elves aren't going to be called elves anymore. Dwarves are going to be called something else. Orcs and goblins will have different names. Like Skaven is something that they came up with as a name for rat people, so that one can stay the same. And like a lot of the other stuff that they're doing is obviously borrowing from creators like Tolkien or whoever else. But they want to be able to call the orcs their own name and then trademark that thing. And yeah, Games Workshop has also started their own streaming service. Like, that's the thing. If you try to monopolize the market that you exist in a really fucking cutthroat, mercenary, roguish kind of way like this, then again, I don't condone theft, but I also recognize that piracy and this kind of stuff is a natural byproduct of that behavior.
Yeah.
If you overcharge and like make your product really scarce and people enjoy it, they're just going to find a way to steal it. Like, and then we get shit like fucking War Machine that came out when they were like, you can't say we're stealing from you because it's steampunk.
Yeah.
And you don't do steampunk. You do fantasy or future. You didn't do the thing in between. And they were like, fuck. And now War Machine's got like its own fantasy branch. It's got its own thing. And they charge, from what I understand, very reasonable for their minis.
Well,
like,
I miss War Machine when it was on top. Really do.
Yeah.
It's not as hot as it used to be.
Yep.
But there was a time when War Machine was like full on knocking on Games Workshop's door and saying, "Hi, we're here and we're changing the market."
Yep.
And
the existence of competition is what like makes a healthy market.
WWE isn't as much of a bastard as Games Workshop. Are you literally saying that, Rob Hagen, that Vince McMahon has limits? Are you really making that argument?
Vince McMahon has limits.
He does not.
Fucking, and yeah, Calendros, most pirates are just dissatisfied customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, these are people that would have happily given you their money if you made your product affordable and accessible. But you didn't do either of those things, so they're going to steal from you. Like, again, stealing is bad, but I also have no fucking mercy for companies that do that. So, War Machine is local to me, Doc. Privateer is one of the local brands. Nice. That's awesome. Steals things in South American. But yeah, like, I even have a few War Machine minis. And after I move at the end of September, I'm going to be like, painting and putting together an army and trying them out because they look like a lot of fun. And it's very similar as a tabletop war game to Warhammer. It's just, more accessible and, looks like it's a lot more fun. So there you go. Monopolies destroy markets.
Yep,
straight up.
Time. A lot of people are predicting that Wizards isn't have it. I'll rephrase my earlier statement. Hasn't been half as shady as GW on a good day.
Yeah.
But that being said, a lot of people are predicting, probably very tinfoil hatty, and I'll concede that Wizards may run into a lot of the same problems that GW is now.
Yep.
Because within the next 5 to 10 years. Which, 5 to 10 years, ooh, why are you even scared about that? That's plenty of time to course correct, right?
You say that, but the environment.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. There is a very vocal minority of D&D players that are like the old guard people that fucking hate change and don't want anything to, like, it's the same people that complained when they were like, all right, we're taking alignment off of monsters and we're making it so that detect good and evil is really detect whether or not you're an extra planar being. Yeah, you say that, but the everything.
I'm gonna throw my money at Gundams instead of GW. Well, yeah, it's because you can't, because giant robots don't have to worry about those kind of things. It's Gundam's entire thing is, we're a war crime, but you like the robots. It's very much this meta irony thing. Look at all the love CD Projekt Red had before Cyberpunk. People are asking on pirate sites to please buy the game. Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's or look at Massive Press, for example. Massive Press does not have a piracy issue at all. And they're incredibly successful with Lancer.
Honey, we don't like to pirate games. Have a discussion about it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's why, like, I keep reiterating, like, I don't condone theft, but I understand the environments that it exists in.
Oh.
That you were saying? Like, I would like to have a discussion about this game. I would also like to have a discussion about this game.
Oh! That's what Sam's
like,
turned out.
I would...
So, what Sam's saying is, one way that pirates are getting around, it was something I saw on Reddit. I'm not going to say what game it was for, because I don't want to encourage people to go look at a piracy site. But they were like, there was the subreddit for a piracy thing. And no one was actually using the word piracy in threads. They were all just saying, I want to have a discussion about this game. Who would like to DM me so we can have a discussion about this game? I too would like to have a discussion about this game. I have yet to have a discussion about this game. And I'm just like, uh-huh.
And one person went, I would like a link, please. And
Can I have a link to pirate? We won't give you that because that's piracy. But if you'd like to have a discussion about the game...
Come over here. Yeah, what exactly? And yeah, Mythic's like, I love 40K, but any decent army would take most of my money for a year.
Yeah.
I'm on disability. Well, even people making like 6-figure salaries can't fucking afford Warhammer Fantasy or 40K. Like, it's just too much money to field an army. And then if they change the rules or if something else happens and like a new meta comes out, then now you've got like fuck it. Now your army that you just spent thousands of dollars building is now invalidated. Like, it's ridiculous. I will see your Space Marines and raise you my Napoleonic army, which in the long run is probably
Probably
cheaper despite being bigger. I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're doing historical tabletop, right? Oh, you beautiful historical tabletop miniature fans. God bless you.
God bless you, people.
God
bless you, bunch.
I have seen that market. It is amazing. It is devoted, and it is beautiful. It has just the right amount of tension of I want to get into this because I love it. Why would I want to taste tea? I hate tea.
It doesn't taste like.
Are we sure of that?
I'm serious.
Okay, fine.
Drink the least water, Mike.
It tastes like tea that you dripped chocolate sauce in. Why did you feed me a lie, my love?
It doesn't taste like tea.
It does to me.
I put in soy milk into my milk tea, and it really doesn't taste like tea at all.
Mm-hmm.
Just
except that it does.
Doesn't. It really doesn't.
Not to you, but to my virgin tongue.
Your virgin tongue.
Hang on. I saw a really good comment. New meta. Fuck. They empower judges to DQ armies at local tourneys if it screws with GW's plus. Is that true?
Yeah.
Holy
like
shit.
Games Workshop will make adjustments on the spot at tournaments if it fucks up with like whatever narrative that they wanted to tell. Like if players actually come up with a way to overcome like whatever thing that was going on, they're just like, nope, that never happened. And then they just like change rules or be like, this character now has double health. Haha. Like well, and that's the thing. Like, yeah, we should use plastic army men instead of 40K. It would cost less than $30 to get 2 huge armies.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, you can. Like,
yeah,
the minis are just stand-ins for concepts already that exist, right? Like, it's the same with D&D. Like, you don't need this shit to play the game.
I
like,
actually
you
had a
can do
conversation
it
with
with
a
plastic army men.
with a Games Workshop vendor, and I asked him, "Look, it doesn't matter how much the figure leans out. It's the base, right? Yeah. What's to stop me from buying a bunch of bases and sticking pictures of the units to them?" And he looked at me with that look on his face of, "You're not the first guy to say this to me. Would you please go away?"
Yeah. Nothing's stopping you, but of course, like, we're not gonna fucking talk about that. Yeah, convenience means piracy. Faceplant Jan, you're absolutely right about that. I kind of share that opinion that people were like, piracy took a dive when Netflix came out and everything was just kind of on Netflix. And then a bunch of other streaming services happened that made it so that people couldn't afford or get access to a lot of the shows they wanted. And so piracy picked back up again. Like, convenience and accessibility and cost will beat piracy, not weird security things.
Yeah. They'll always find a way around it.
Oh yeah, it's like if you make food and other resources infinite, then you make crime in all of its forms obsolete. People don't need to steal and stuff anymore if everybody has as much as what they need to get by. That's the concept of thievery, is because you can't afford or don't have access to a certain thing. Oh yeah, they've disqualified armies for not being painted proper and other stupid bullshit. But, I mean, my brother and I, when we were getting back into Magic the Gathering like years and years ago, couldn't afford to buy the cards that we wanted to and wanted to play test certain decks. So we'd take card sleeves, put a mana card in it, and then print out a card on our like printer, cut it out, and then stick that in the sleeve as well. And then we just play the game that way.
Oh yeah, they were because proxies.
Yeah, we just had proxy cards, and then we made up a rule between us that it's like, okay, if you win like 3 games or whatever with that deck, then you're not allowed to use the proxies. You have to go out and buy those cards. But the whole idea of Magic was there's so many cards in it and so many different ways and builds of playing that you spend all this money on a build that might not even work. And that's how they make a lot of their cash. And poor people like us, we didn't have that kind of money to run those tests.
Yeah.
So we found a way around it.
Yeah. I play with proxies because I just don't want my cards stolen.
Yeah.
I have a picture of the cards I own at home, and I'm like, here's the picture. I own them at home. I don't run with shit that's like $300 in cost.
It's insanity.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'd run with a Black Lotus, and you'd all scream it at me. Everything I have is under $20 value as a card. It's at my house. I don't want to take it here because I don't want to get robbed. And they're like, yeah, that's fair. Because that was a problem when I would go to cons. Because I'm like, if I leave my deck box anywhere, I've lost. Now Sam just won't let me take those cards out of the house because she looked how much some of my cards are worth.
They are too much money, and I don't want him going to go buy more. So
I'm never bringing that Sliver Queen anywhere.
You are never bringing that Sliver Queen anywhere. You are only playing with proxies from now on. I'm sorry.
And that's it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And like in high school, it was the same. Like when we had to play games, like we make proxies and stuff like that. And
I wish I used proxies in high school, but everyone was so fucking hardcore against it. And I'm like, guys, I've already lost an Iridescent Angel. No, that took me back.
Yeah. Now, Mythic doses, but capitalism, what you're saying is socialism/communism. It's so un-American. I'm not going to get too far into that. One, we're Canadian. Two, capitalism and socialism are economic systems, not political ones. They're systems that countries use to manage their economic resources and regulate their means of production, whereas communism and democracies are political systems. Those are systems by which we govern our economic systems, which don't always work out very well.
I need to owe you an apology, Doc, for the joke I'm about to make because I want to, because it just popped into my head and I don't
go for it.
And I want to respect that I don't undermine your point. I'm just going to make the joke anyway. Government in the democracy in the streets, communism under the sheets.
In Soviet Russia, government governs you or something. I don't know. I fucking lost that joke halfway through. But yeah, it's and yeah, like using proxies I think is perfectly viable for people that don't want to get their cards stolen or people that just can't afford them. Like it falls down to that whole like what is and is not okay. When does this game become a game only for rich people, right? Like because it is designed to make money, not just to be fun. It's designed to make money for the people that run and own that game. So, which is also Wizards of the Coast, last I heard.
Yeah.
At least these days.
Wizards of the Coast, but if you following Magic the Gathering news is fun because the guys I follow, and I don't know whether that's just me or whatever, or I just can't find anyone who's willing to, but nearly everyone who talks about Magic the Gathering news is just saying, this is the news. This is me flipping off Wizards of the Coast for 20 minutes. You've been warned. Let the rant begin.
Yeah. I remember when high school classmates started using proxies and I went, holy shit, you can do that? Yeah. Someone just figured out an immediate like workaround to we made a system that's very complex and is really just designed to make a bunch of money for us. Like, do whatever. Like, a perfect example of that is the new Pokemon MOBA that came out on the Switch. I played that for an evening with other people, like the day after it came out on our live stream. Is that game Pokemon Unite? Is it fun? Absolutely. Is it designed specifically to ream money out of people? 100%. Like it is designed to be like the second you get in, you have to play without items and you have to play in this one room that they let all the high level players play in as well. And that's not an accident. Like that is intentional. And also if you get items and you level those items up, it like multiplies your maximum health and damage by like a factor of 10. It's absurd. Now you can play the game and do this naturally, or you can just like drop $100 and have it all happen automatically. So I was like, is the game fun? Absolutely. Is it designed specifically to like just squeeze money out of people like through shitty underhanded psychological tactics? Absolutely. So I don't play it. I don't like games that do that. Uh, and like a lot of other game systems are very like designed in that regard or with that in mind, because obviously they don't just want to make something that's fun, they also want to make money while they're at it. Good game development companies will realize that making a good game will very oftentimes make you money. A lot of, I'm going to say production companies, because not game design companies, production companies don't understand that, or at least they're picking up on it slowly these days.
Mm-hmm.
I snapped one of the pegs, but it's okay because 2 other pegs that'll keep.
Don't mind if we do.
Okay, good. Got worried for a second. All right.
That's why I went shit.
How much longer are we going to go for, and do I have time to go use the bathroom?
You always have time to go to the bathroom because this is a talkie craft check.
We're going until 5.
But we stop at 5.
Cool. I will be right back.
You do not have to be here for all of it, though. You can very easily go and choose life.
Whenever you want, you can get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. No one is obligated to stay if they have other obligations.
Nah, I booked time today. But yeah, I'm going to go run use the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Sounds cool.
All right. The wings of Wargreymon are done, and I very much need to sand and repaint them because they look like ass up close. But hopefully on stream, they look really fucking cool. Ah, they're bloomed out from the light. Isn't that great? Did I hold them up to the camera? That. Get it. There you go. Fuck, that actually looks good on camera. Okay. I have one more claw to make. And then. How you doing, Jordan?
I'm doing good. I'm just kind of chilling out, just listening to you guys talk somewhat.
Cool.
So I don't mind.
So, should we continue talking about Everend, or should we just, considering the conversation's kind of wandered away from that, do a normal craft check with opinions?
Yeah, let's do that.
Everend or craft check with opinions?
Let's do craft check with opinions, and we'll let the people guide us if we want to do different things.
Cool. Capitalism. Oh, apparently the chat is having a discussion about capitalism.
As you do.
As you do. So, Jordan, what are you enjoying these days?
In relation to...
I don't know, fucking pick a topic, man.
God, what am I enjoying? I was gonna go, like, happy with life, basically.
Yeah? That's
like... Yeah, I mean, things are okay. Things are starting to come together for me, so I'm feeling pretty good about stuff.
Hell yeah, dude.
Just had a weekend with my kid, so that was fun.
Fuck yeah.
Just did... I don't know, what else? Looking forward to new Everend when we do come back to that. It's gonna be a good time.
Woo.
What else? I think sometimes I miss Magic the Gathering, to be honest with you.
I do too. I keep looking
Only it wasn't so, like, pay to win.
Yeah. I keep looking at deck builds that people have put out, and some of them look really cool.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Next. This is what? Building another. Sam didn't just immediately reply with the claw, and that disheartens me more than anything else that has ever happened. I see. The claw. Like, I wanted to. I really did want to get into Warhammer 40k back in the day. I didn't have the money. And I had 3 figures. I don't even know what happened to the 3 miniatures I had. I think I gave them away to somebody.
Well, this is why I ended up doing the books and not the actual game itself, right?
Yeah, somehow 200 books is cheaper than the actual game.
I know, but like, keep in mind, if I have a bunch of miniatures, I have to find a place to play them.
Yeah.
And I would have been shit on for, 2 years now? So that's not happening.
The one
So
book
that's
I,
fine.
s- the one book I still want to read from Warhammer 40K, and I know you know exactly what it is if I describe it to you.
Certainly. Hit me.
Um. Oh, Dave's here. Hi, Dave.
Sup, butt lords?
Okay, it's one where the dude is prey. It's the documentary, the autobiography, sorry, of one particular Imperial Guard soldier who rose his way to the ranks and is known historically as one of the most famous commissar battle masters of all time.
That one.
What?
That one.
And his book opens with, "Everything you've heard about me is a lie. This is the truth."
Cool.
And it's about this dude who has run away from every encounter he's ever had and has just accidentally failed upward.
I forgot the name of it, but yeah, there's like one or two books for that guy specifically.
Yeah. Is it Cypher's Kane?
I don't think so. Oh, might be Kane. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah.
I've been looking to pick up his books for a while too, so
Yeah.
I
It
hear
sounds
you
like
on that one.
it sounds like they're the only true, like, actually comedic novels in 40K. Doc, you get a kick out of this.
Hmm.
So this guy, for example, will run away from battle and go over a hill and throw away his grenades and drop them in a Tyranid nest. And it turns out that Tyranid nest was actually the Hive controller and he won the engagement.
Wow.
Yeah. Or he'll oh, what was the one? They're all telling me it's Cyphus Kane. Fair enough. So it's Cyphus Kane. Or there's one where he'll say, he radioed in one time saying, "We've got orcs, we're pulling out, sorry." And all the Marines, the problem was he thought he had radioed High Command. He radioed the Space Marines. Dave is asking if he should join us on the Discord. Sam, are you able to loop him in? If you'd like to, Dave, join us in the green room. We'll get you in there real quick. There he is. And we're back out. Hello!
Oh, hi.
Hi. In an unintentional craft check. And because all they got was, "There are orcs," they immediately bombarded the area, and he was praised as a tactical genius. Kind of thing. And
By accident, of course.
By accident, right? I fucking love this guy because he's trying to tell everyone in the world that he's fake. He's a faker. They're like, "No, you're one of the greatest generals ever. Shut up."
No.
Stupid.
And apparently he's actually got I think a sister of battle, an inquisitor girlfriend who he told her the truth and she said, "Don't worry, I'll make it okay." And she's building his myth bigger
Oh, damn it.
because she's controlling a commissar who befriends his soldiers because he doesn't want to get killed by stray bullets. And that's how many bad commissars die. And she's like, "Okay, cool." And she's making the myths. She's killing people who know the truth now to keep his secret.
Well,
That's what,
morale.
that's what a good girlfriend does.
Yeah.
Just murders people.
Have you been low-key murdering people that take away from my glory?
No, for legal purposes.
No.
God, I love
I
you.
can neither confirm nor deny.
Oh, man. But I really want to check it out because there's this, as I understand it, and the people who know Warhammer 40K far better than me can correct on that, there is a element of parody to 40K, which does get obscured in the love people have for their different factions. It's nice to kind of see a novel that just kits into that and saying, no, the universe sucks. And it sucks so
Quite
much.
ridiculous in how grim dark it can be.
Yeah. And it's just,
It's like, yeah, I get it. Everything's terrible. I understand. Like,
let's have a little fun with this stupid continuity finally.
yeah.
At long last.
Takahata 101 voiced him in a Brava Fafasta video. I have got it. It's a parody on the play on the Harry Flashman books, as I recall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 40K was supposed to be a parody, but the Grimdark took over. Yeah, because it made money.
Well, it was just like it didn't matter how hard they leaned into stupid Grimdark parody. You can't parody Grimdark. Everything you say that's absurd and over the top just feeds them.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
It's silly.
I still wish
Yeah,
I'd written an article on the cakes of the 40K universe.
Oh yeah, I remember that
that, Dave?
conversation. Yep.
Jordan, you remember that nonsense?
Oh, I do, yes.
Shall I talk about it?
That went on for way too long.
It went on for way too long.
Well, that's because there's too many damn chapters.
Yeah, Doc, we made a joke of cakes of the 40th millennium, and how each and every different faction and organization makes cakes, and what they end up tasting like.
Uh-huh.
So there's
So
the Ultramarine, the cake made by the Ultramarines. It's made perfectly, but everyone still thinks it's kind of shit.
It's perfect, but people still have opinions about it.
The Blood Angels don't have a cake. They have a picture of a cake that they cry over that they had one time back when Senegunius was still alive. The Imperial Fists have a cake. Good luck getting to it. The Dark Angels only do not own half a cake. It is a whole cake. No, there is not a second half somewhere that's slowly rotting. Shut up. That is the cake. That's how it's designed.
So yes, it was this, but like over and over and over.
Yeah, just over and over and over again. Didn't you make a whole Marine chapter house of artifact hoarders, Mike? I did, and then Jordan told me that they were real.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
Jordan told me they already existed, because I made a gag chapter house of people who just hoarded artifacts, and they said, "Oh no, what? This deck plating was used 2,000 years ago for Brother Kuva to make his legendary jump on the siege. How dare you tarnish it? It still has his original scuff marks." And it turned out that was a real chapter.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got so mad.
It's a real one.
Like I said, like especially in 40K, but doubly so with fucking Grimdark stuff, you can't go too hard.
Yeah.
No, it's
They will always just be like, yeah. Whenever you go into hyperspace to travel places, you have to travel through a hell dimension of madness and warped time. And they're like, yep. That's where all the
Expand on that.
chaos stuff leave. Like, yep, love it.
I made feet.
Literally say anything, and they'll be like, yeah. Like,
It's almost as if they're like the most unoriginal people, and they've
Wait, how
always
much
got
are you done?
a recording device
done?
running.
No.
Like, it looks like you're almost done your Cybuster. We've been doing this the whole time.
I still have
High
to
five.
make the waist and the back and the stand and the sword.
Mike and the other players, are you worried about a TPK in the Everend game?
No.
I don't see that happening the way Doc runs the game, unless we really fuck around and find out.
I follow the system of this, that like the DM and the players are largely sort of share responsibility in how encounters will play out to a degree. But my perfect combat as a DM is if one player made a death save. If one person made a death save but nobody died, that was a perfect fight. It was perfectly balanced. It was just challenging enough for the players to get through, but they still got through and nobody died. One person almost died. And I actually got that from watching Fantasy High on Dimension 20. It was every combat that they got in, at least one person was making a death save, and it kept everybody on the edge of their fucking seats. Like, they weren't being bulldozed, but at the same time, it wasn't a fucking cakewalk. And I've absolutely been a DM in the past where I've been like, I don't want to like push people too hard, because what if they die? Like, they love their characters and I love their characters and I don't want them to die. Like, no. So But yeah, like it's not engaging if it's too easy. Like people aren't having usually a very good time.
I've never been afraid of character death. Like it's never been a thing.
Jordan, you've
Well,
been
that's-
shackled to one character because I won't let you die. It's more fun.
There's one druid I just can't stop being because he won't let me die.
I'll chain you to this prison called life.
He's that transporter accident that keeps begging for death.
So like I want to make a new character because I made this druid like shit, and he's like, no.
The pattern of returning alive after being declared dead occurred often enough during Kane's career that the Munitorium made a specific ruling that Cyphus Kane is never to be considered dead despite evidence to the contrary. Yeah.
He's basically like their Chuck Norris. Like he's like they're insane. Like there's insane things about him.
If he
all
ain't
over
gray,
it.
he's a-okay.
You learned
Hey,
one
great.
Transformers meme about Optimus Prime.
And it's worked.
It does.
He ain't gray. He's a-okay.
Yeah, it's the Transformers rule. If Optimus Prime turns gray, then you got to do a little bit more work to bring him back. If he ain't gray, he's
So
fine.
funny.
Megatron, he's not dead. No, I killed Prime. Did he turn gray? No, then he's a-okay. All right, where is C?
It turns out if you care about it enough, the Autobots will put in the work to bring it back.
Oh god, it's worse in the IDW comics because they've specifically said that the Transformers are effectively immortal, and you, in theory, cannot actually kill a Cybertronian. If you have the time and resources, you can bring them back from practically nothing. But they're dying from extreme atrophy of being alive too long, like they're just shutting down, which is interesting. But for Megatron and Optimus, it's like we have been at this for 2 million years. I threw you in a reactor and it didn't work. And it pissed me off. You punched me so hard in my transformation cog, I was stuck in gun mode for 10 years. You motherfucker. They're literally arguing over who hates each other more by how much they've tried to kill each other in one comic.
No, I hate you more.
You punched me in my cog.
I was a
Punched me
gun!
in my cogs.
That's just
Fuck.
it's just how much
That's
those
like
two
that
hate each
phrase.
other.
Yeah, I walk funny when I get punched in the cog too.
Where the fuck is down on this stupid peg?
Oh, that makes me laugh.
I have got to read the IDW comics. I really do.
I swear, we need a quote bot on our chat so that people can log this stuff in. Quote number 156. I got punched in my cog.
I was stuck in teeth. Threw me off a bridge. No, wait, spoilers. Sorry, Mike. It's okay. God damn it, Jordan.
Prime is never dead for good. Come on now.
Yeah, it doesn't stick. Although he died at the end of the IDW run, but we're pretty sure he's alive somewhere.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk 2020. What is
In
he
our
want?
hearts.
What's that? You want to live through the Friday night firefight in the combat zone? You shouldn't have fought in the first place. Well, Prime did die for good in the 2005 one. Reminds me of the Yakuza games. The only way for a person to die in the game is by plot. You can crush their head at a wall and they'll walk it off. Yeah, that's also true.
Actually, Friday Night Firefight is very close to what I call my Friday Night Lancer game.
Yeah.
Friday Night Lancer fight!
Well, that's what it was in Cyberpunk, right? Because the original Cyberpunk tonally was, yeah, you live in a torturous hellscape, but you can also buy a gun and go kill that guy you don't like. What the fuck is stopping you? Also, go on
You
a
could
job
also
and
just
steal
kill
this
him.
person because money.
What's that quote from Back to the Future? The justice system moves swiftly now that they've abolished all lawyers.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if... Yeah, no, there's not... Lawyers only exist for the corporations in Cyberpunk. You know, like the real world.
Mhm.
Hey, Megatron,
Depressing,
do you remember the
but
time
true.
I spray painted you pink and you got wasted on premium oil and sold you to a scrapyard? Ah, good times, yeah. Okay, and with that, unless I am grossly mistaken and missing a piece... Hang on. Come on. Get in there. You.
Ipsler, what are you trying to accomplish with the Konami code? Is anyone here susceptible to the Konami code?
I was, but I got it extracted in 2005.
There we go. Tipsler, what are you doing?
Sepulsar, your old information betrays you.
Do not quote the old rights to me, witch. I was there when they were written.
I have screwed up badly. No, is there a pair of pliers in the toolbox?
I don't know. You have the play. You have the box.
I am in trouble. I may have screwed up this entire thing.
No.
Well, we've hit in a weird little lull. Has 10 lives stolen from him by tip.
That pulsar?
Oh.
So Dave,
going
what
back
have you been
to stuff. Doc, you and Jordan, before the stream started, were talking about Warhammer Fantasy. How is that treating you, the video game?
Oh, it's so good. Like I constantly, usually at least on my stream, will go on record as saying that the Total War Warhammer video game on Steam is hands down probably one of my favorite games of all time. Just because I enjoy the storytelling and narrative that they do with the Warhammer Fantasy series, but also I like that you can just play whatever armies you want in whatever configurations you like, and you don't have to spend money on or paint any minis. You just buy the game, and yeah, there's like for each individual lord beyond the ones that you get with the base game, you're gonna have to buy a DLC. Usually they're like $12 to $11 for the DLC though, for the specific lord. A lot of them are free. So there's still lots of the game that you can play without having to spend extra money. They just came out with a free DLC lord for the dwarves, which updated their mechanics a bunch, and I was really happy with it.
I mean, they also have what was that one? I think he was an orc lord that effectively was Guy Fieri trying to go to Flavortown.
From the Punch.
There we go.
Yeah.
No hesitation. He knew what that was.
He gets an entire army of trolls high on soup and runs into combat with them.
Get all fucked up on soup.
And I hate how just brazenly fucking easy it is to play Grom the Paunch, because not only it's like you beat certain factions and it unlocks certain ingredients that you can throw in a big cauldron and make the soup that Grom eats, and it gives like buffs to his army, to all other armies, or just to him as a character depending on the stuff you use to make the soup. I really loved but just like hated that the greenskins got this. They have like a bunch of these tiny little wagons run by goblins that are so small they're not considered goblins. They're called snotlings. And they run these little wagons that are powered by them pumping a little crank. So they're called snotling pump wagons, and they're easily, I think, one of the strongest units in the fucking game. And it's embarrassing that that's the truth, that you can have Grom on his chariot with an army of just snotling pump wagons, and it wins every single engagement I've ever put them in, like with no losses whatsoever. It's so absurd. Do
you think they would have changed that in the new update?
I don't know if they did, but I know I was playing Grom on stream a little while ago, and it's like, yeah, these are chariots that just like have super high damage and defense and armor, and then they ram into an enemy and then fart on them and just release farts, which do like armor piercing high damage to like any unit, and they just like clean fields. Like they just rinse whole fucking groups of enemies. I was like, I actually can't imagine an army that would be able to stop this. I just can't. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. It's obscene.
It's the most absurd fucking thing. Yeah, why are you buying Skaven at the soup store? I really enjoy the Skaven in that game, the mad science flair that they've got. But when I first started playing it, I was like, is there a faction that lets you just like dig in your heels at a certain part of the map and just like blast the hell out of people with artillery? They're like, yeah, that's the dwarves. I was like, cool. And the more I read about dwarves, the more I loved them. And I've been enjoying them ever since.
I still really want to make a Space Dwarves campaign.
Oh, a Squatch campaign?
No, Space Dwarves, like in Starfinder.
Oh, wait. Yes.
Yeah, because I read the lore from Paizo. Not to change the topic, if people are okay with that.
That's fine.
Okay.
Fucking dare you.
And we'll happily come back to this.
No, I don't care.
Where, sorry, lost my train of thought. So the idea was that basically in 40K, sorry, not 40K, in Starfinder lore, the dwarves are believed to be in decline because they don't know how to survive in the asteroid fields that they've been planted in. Now, what little science I do know says that asteroid fields are basically full of all kinds of metals. Insane, in fact. So what happened was, in my head, it's you took an entire species of diggers, stuck them on an asteroid to dig, and we're assuming their economy is in decline? So you want to roleplay Deep Rock Galactic, Mike? Kind of, but I want to make it, like, epic.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be like that, but obviously much better.
Like Storm Thunders and all that shit. It's like...
Let me send wave after wave of these bugs at you.
I want to so badly do it where it's like where like an orc tries to raid a goblin thing and he gets caught by the cops before the dwarves catch him and they say to him, "Look, why on earth would you raid dwarves? They don't have any money. They don't have any money. They don't have any money. Everyone left them alone in an asteroid field. What do you think happened? They dug everything up. They have engines. They have asteroids that are just built for battle. They're just sitting there." You know.
My theory on that is, what is it? Damn it, the theory's gone. Carry on.
Yeah. I want to get back into playing Total War Warhammer Fantasy though. That I've got to get a good game going of that.
Yeah, man. We can definitely crank on that if you want to at some point.
I would love to.
I dug too deeply and awakened a space Balrog.
Yep.
I mean,
Well, that is sort of a thing I'm really frustrated about with the Games Workshop amidst everything else is apparently how much they hate dwarves. Like, they've left them like so unupdated and unloved, and like just nothing new really came from them, and like all of their content that was written for like end times and stuff was just embarrassing and bad. And then they were like, and in the 40K universe where we've put literally every other race, dwarves are called squats and they're extinct. Stop asking about them. Shut the fuck up and go away. And it's like,
I used to have models for them.
Yeah, I was like, why do you hate them so much? Like, I've never seen a company hate their own fans this bad, unless it was Capcom.
It's like
Capcom
how they
finally
hate on,
stopped though. That was the thing.
Yeah, Capcom has definitely been laying off their like the hatred for their own fans and like money.
But
that popped up.
yeah, it's almost like how Games Workshop did have female Space Marines, but they weren't selling well. And the stores are like, well, stop sending us refills for product that doesn't sell. So they then started crafting the lore that there were no female Space Marines. And I'm like, well, that's a cop-out.
Is that how that happened?
Yeah.
Brutal.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's incredibly shitty. And they're like, well, we can't be seen to be wrong, so here's lore saying there are no women.
Oh.
Boo.
Exactly.
I like the amount of questions that women in power armor raises.
That looks cool.
I like it, Mike. I like it.
Thank you.
Is that Wargreymon?
Yeah, that's Wargreymon. The amplified version with all my paint on it and stuff. Finally built. I may strip down some pieces and repaint them later. But for right now, fuck, he looks cool.
He looks tidy.
He looks like a god.
Well
he looks
built.
like an ugly war god, and I love him.
We got 14 minutes left to go, roughly, says Tunberry. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about while we're here?
Well, let's see here. We're going to try and figure out when to get Everin going, and we will announce that on both the Discord and through social media when the finale will be, and obviously the week after. fans can look forward to getting the notes on Patreon. After that, Dom is returning with another 5th edition game, and he's doing an entirely new campaign concept,
Mystery.
Mm.
which he's finishing up. I'm trying to think what else is going on. L5R Season 2, Episode 4 is on its way out, and look very excited for that because we got into the Imperial City, and were we bad when we got in there.
I remembered my point.
Yeah, go ahead.
About the declining space dwarves.
Yeah.
What system was that for? That was
40K.
Oh, that was the reason for 40K? Okay.
Oh, wait, the declining space dwarves, are you like with Starfinder?
Well, I was thinking, if the space dwarves lost all motivation because no one packed the Diggy Diggy Hole soundtrack, and they are all just sitting on a rock in space, it's like, what's even the point? Can't even raise my pickaxe.
Damn it.
So yes, it's a mild joke on space dwarf impotence because they couldn't get their Diggy Diggy Hole on.
I like it better whenever I would have a dwarvish player and I would start to sing Hi Ho, and they would scream at me, "You can't use that song, it's our song."
Oh my god.
Those are our words. You know what?
What, like all of them, or just in that order?
I imagine in that order.
Okay.
You are almost done that kit. Any word on when the tribe campaign will continue? Really love those guys. Because Scott is no longer with D20 Live, we have to come to a decision about how we want to continue that game. As a result, it was gonna continue after L5R was done. It has been delayed, and we will be getting more Persona. In the interim, while the tribe crew as a whole figures out what we want to do. Really simply.
And I've got to sort out what to do with the Lancer game.
Yeah.
And we've got a few like that.
Yep. We're going to be shuffling some things around and finding some new stuff to do, so it's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good time.
Yep. And we will be taking a hiatus in November because of the fact that Sam and I will be getting married that month. Yay! And we would like to take that time away.
We're gonna fuse them together at the hip.
Guys,
I know a
because
guy.
Of the fact that,
it's a wedding, and it's a big fete.
Big deal, you guys. Come on.
It will be a big shenanigabaloo.
Shenanigabaloo. Oh.
Shenanigabaloo. Oh. What, you're not going to stream your entire honeymoon? Counter sad, and I will tell you exactly what I said last time someone asked that question. If you want me to stream my honeymoon, you got to donate about $1 million, and I will stream me siring my firstborn.
on
OnlyFans. On OnlyFans.
Maybe not OnlyFans, because they've really dicked their community.
No, they walked that back.
I know they walked that back, but still.
They postponed it. Indefinitely. It was different than walking it back. They basically said that they're indefinitely suspending that action and that they still might pull the trigger on it at a random time in the future. Who knows?
When no one's paying attention.
Yeah.
Mike, on your wedding night, will you roll for initiative?
Oh. I hate this.
No.
Bad taste, but funny.
No, God, no.
Oh, so weird. The stream's breaking up. Oh,
Yeah.
what?
Oh, God.
I'm getting some weird interference.
And for the rest of the group, who has stuff they want to promote? Why not? It didn't just have to be you, Doc. I know you're the one with stuff actually going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons why it's going to be hard for me. Like, I can still participate in D20 Live content going forward, but DM is going to be a bit hard for me, at least in the immediate interim, because I'm moving at the end of this month, as I'd mentioned. But I've got a bunch of projects that I've currently got on the go. Our YouTube channel, Evil Incorporated, we've started releasing clips from our live streams once per day. So we've like edited some jokes into them and stuff like that, or at least like trimmed them up a little bit better, and we've got them coming out now, one every day, because when I finished going back and capturing like all the good clips from a little while, I ended up with over 370 of them. So I thought, cool, there's content for a year if I edit and release those. So there's that. We have a TikTok channel now. If you want to go look up Evil Ink on there.
Oh, cool.
It's either Evil Ink or is Dr. Terrawat. Hold on. Sorry, I can also put the link tree for this stuff in like the channel. But yeah, Dr. Terrawat is over on TikTok. We're releasing stuff there now, which is cool. And I have also made a VTuber character that we're trying to get up off the ground called Calvin.
Nice.
If you guys want to go follow K-47 on Twitter. I'm going to be launching this character on streams sometime mid-September.
Cool.
But yeah. We sure like our content here. This is Scouter Saturn. Yeah. A continent of content. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm definitely putting more time into this, so that's just what I'm up to.
Sidebuster is like 90% complete.
You got
What is a
him
side
done in
buster?
one stream.
Upside down.
You got him
There you
done
go.
in one stream,
Woo!
Dave. Good job.
What is a Sidebuster?
The Sidebuster is from Super Robot Wars. It
Oh, cool.
is Misaki's.
Misaki Endo's mech is the Lord
Nice.
of Wind. He frequently gets lost on the way to this story.
Aw.
There was one time he got so lost he missed the entirety of his third game.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh no.
He ended up in a completely different Super Robot Wars
Worst
game.
Yeah, he did.
I am so lost.
Misaki was hunting down his arch rival and ended up on the surface of the Earth. I will point out that his arch rival was inside the Earth. That's how lost he gets. Because that mech really can fly around at Mach 2.
We love Misaki.
Love him.
Oh yeah.
Directionally impaired dude with 2 cats as co-pilots. Super Robot Wars just doesn't fucking hold back.
Super Robot Wars is having a fun time.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, to answer someone's question from earlier, what am I into? I think that was Jordan. I'm into lower decks right now.
Okay. Season?
Season 2 is coming out currently.
Yes.
It's fun.
If you want a comedic Star Trek cartoon, Lower Decks is fucking awesome.
I love how satirical it is. There's so many callbacks, and it's like, wait, he died last episode. Yeah. Well, how did he come back? We don't talk about that. It's so good. Oh, the opening credits are just their ship, the Cerritos, which means Little Hills, getting the shit kicked out of it.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's really quite funny, actually.
Yeah.
And of course, Sam and I will be returning tomorrow at 8 o'clock p.m. for more Optimal Duo video game stream.
Woo.
Video game stream.
Yeah, and I believe
Pew,
I will be
pew,
playing
pew,
Ratchet
pew.
and Clank for those of you who care about that.
There you go, Sam. That's a thumbs up.
There,
But yeah.
got it.
Hey, Doc, when are you next streaming Sea of Thieves?
We were going to do last Wednesday, but obviously that
Okay.
was the hashtag Do Better Twitch thing, so we weren't
Oh, I
streaming.
see. see.
But we usually do it Wednesdays on our channel. We stream Sea of Thieves.
Okay.
And
Right
also,
on.
like, for anybody that's in our community, any of them from any of our communities, really, if you guys want to come hang out on our Discord, we have like a Sea of Thieves channel and like lots of gaming channels where people can hang out and like jump on Sea of Thieves together and sail around. I know a lot of members of our community play the game when I'm not involved or when I'm not streaming.
Nice.
So yeah, like there's loads of people there that want to get back into it more because the more content they add to the game, the better it gets.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Like, I still haven't gone on any Tall Tales, and I'd love to crank out a couple of those. So
You should
let's
find
see.
a day to do that then, Dave.
Absolutely.
Because
I mean, it's a long week.
I've not done many of them myself, so I would be up for it.
I mean, it's a long weekend for Canadians right now, so I could go long tonight. unless Jordan, you're doing something else.
I can see, and I'll let you know.
All right, let me know.
But yeah, in the meantime, we can definitely get something going at the very least.
Nice. Yeah, I'm just looking through Doc's Discord right now. Do.
It is
Apparently,
quite
it is the long
interesting.
weekend in the U.S. as well. Of course, one cannot forget the wonderful people on the D20 Live Discord. We're also
Of course.
lovely.
Yeah.
And who I believe are on both Discords. If you're not on both Discords, if you're on one or the other, be on the other. Why not? Get your life out there.
Why are you not
On
on
board, Tonberry. We'll pick a time. We'll do saily things.
I enjoy the sailing aspect of Sea of Thieves quite a bit.
That's a lot of
actually.
fun, and it's a
It's
really
just such
pretty
a pretty
game.
fucking game. God, it looks so good.
Right.
The water physics is really quite nice.
And then Sweaty's come in and is like, no, the real pirate experience.
It's so funny. They just keep adding like PvE story content, and all the like sweaty PvP kids keep freaking out. It's so funny.
Jeez. Rob Hagen, bring Dave into 7 Days to Die. Hashtag spawn vulture.
Oh my god. Yeah, we've been playing 7 Days to Die with Twitch integration. And it's been just a full fucking load of chaos. It's been huge fun.
I hear fine-tuning the Twitch integration is tricky.
It can be, depending on the experience that you want. It's definitely needed. Some of the things that people do are like, oh, we'll pay these points with the Twitch integration to like make your vision get all super fucky. And it's like, this isn't necessarily challenging for me so much as it's just nauseating for like me and everyone else who's watching.
Yeah.
So we're gonna turn that off. There's another one that they can pay points for to just like break all of your equipment that you currently have on, which I also think is not cool. And I've talked about on the stream that like I prefer additive gameplay rather than subtractive. So like
Yeah.
the stuff that they can do to like summon weapons and armor and zombies, I like that. Things that they pay points for to like take stuff out of the game to like break things or spoil all the food in your inventory or remove zombies from around you, I'm like, I don't think that that's engaging. Like I want to add stuff to it, not subtract.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
Alrighty.
Well,
I believe we are at time, Sam. If you would send us off. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. We promised you a season finale to Tales from Everend. As soon as we can finalize it on our end, we will tell everybody.
Woo.
Until then, stay home, stay safe, and as always, be kind. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
peace out, homies.